Klaus.
Here.
Brian Adams.
Here.
Bill Buchanan.
Here.
Mary Iper.
Here.
Doug Fritz.
Here.
Shannon Pennington.
Here.
Robert Farmer.
The first order of business this evening will be the approval of minutes, and all the members, I'm assuming, have got a copy of that and reviewed those. Does anyone have anything to add or take away from the minutes as they're written here today? If not, we'll call for a motion.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion,
Second.
and we have a second. Please call the roll.
Mary Iper.
Yes.
Doug Fritz.
Yes.
Bill Buchanan.
Yes.
Brian Adams.
Yes.
Bill Klaus.
Yes.
Shannon Pennington.
Yes. The next order of business this evening is the site development plan for 3197 Lexington Road.
Mr. Chairman, we need to amend the agenda to remove that item. They weren't quite ready to present tonight, so they asked us to take that off.
All right.
And resubmit it at a later time.
That being said, I'm gonna move on to the next.
Yep.
All right, with that being removed, the next order of business will be the zone change for 1072 Tate Street Road. And the parties are here to represent, can you come forward?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. My name is John Roth, and I'm here on behalf.
Have an address for the record, please.
My name is John Roth, 125 South Main Street, Winchester, Kentucky. And I am counsel for the applicant, AMCG Properties LLC. The applicant is represented tonight by its sole member, Mr. Grant Gabbard. Mr. Chair, if I can, I'd like to just pass this out. This is a PowerPoint presentation that we can project on the screens, but I'd like to kind of, I guess, just first orientate you all to the area. I know it's right down the road from here, just to let you know kind of the property that I'm looking at and the reasons why we believe that.
Don't interrupt for just a second. Let's get the chairman in here and we'll get it on the record that Robert Farmer has joined us. And we'll go from there. Sorry for the interruption.
Thank you, sir. Just to kind of orientate you here to the property, this is just the Google images. The property is indicated by the map there. This is located on Tates Creek Road. Like I said, it's just a couple miles from here on the right-hand side of the road. It's located between two existing single-family residential developments. The property is a little bit interesting, and one thing that's a little bit unique about our request tonight is that probably about 85% or 80% of this property lies within the urban services corridor. The back portion of the property does not. In kind of consultation with planning staff, rather than have a split zoning situation where part of the property remains zoned differently in the front and in the back, part of what our request in our application is seeking is actually to have all of it reinstated to be part of that urban service corridor so they can all have the same zoning classification so that we don't have a split zone property as it currently sits here today. Kind of looking at the present zoning of the adjacent tracts, you'll notice a lot of it is already zoned for residential development. I'll note here, if you kind of look at this screen, this is the tract that we're talking about. The yellow line going through here for the public, that is the urban service corridor boundary. So as you can see, a large portion of the property does already fit within that corridor. It is surrounded on the east and on the west by single-family development. The property to the west obviously is not zoned that way. It predates the zoning ordinance, but that is how it is being utilized as single-family residential. The request before you tonight on the application is to zone it all to UC1, single-family residential. The plan is to make sure that any eventual development plan would meet all the criteria of that zoning classification. The applicant is well versed in development, making sure that they can comply with all the ordinances and subdivision regulations. Our argument to you tonight, I know you're a zone map proponents all request all the time. I think you kind of know it's a three-pronged analysis. Our position tonight is actually that this map change request is an agreement with your comprehensive plan. The reasons are pretty straightforward. The primary reason is that the future land use map for the comp plan actually designate this area for future single-family growth. So this is the map as a whole. If you zoom in, you'll notice that this whole area is in the hatched lines, indicating that it was set aside for future long-term single-family residential growth. That's probably primarily based upon its proximity to other single-family residential developments, the fact that electric and water utilities are close. It is within the development plan for sewer. We recognize that right now that is not available, but the hope would be that it would eventually one day be available. You've got proximity to it. You've got access on a public roadway, a major roadway, and obviously it's the type of use that is consistent with adjoining uses in that, it's surrounded on two sides by single-family residential property. The first goal of the comprehensive plan that I think is really applicable is that pertaining to land use and development. Number of goals 4, 5, and 6 are directly in line with this proposed development. It is not going to have conflicting land uses. Like I said, if you're on the east and the west, you've got single-family residential. The goal is that other new development will be non-disruptive to the existing development. So this would be, the plan would be to have a development very similar to that of the neighbors. It's an infill development in the sense that it's within the majority of it, the urban corridor. It's not looking to put a large development where there's not existing utilities, not existing sufficient roadways. The idea is to put this near an existing developed area. By my calculation, it was about 5 miles from the interstate. It's in an area in high demand. Obviously, those two subdivisions are fully developed out. It'll help meet a housing need in Madison County. And goal number 6 there is, again, focusing on development within the urban service corridor. Moving on, goal number 5 of the comp plan talks about housing and in detail where to develop and where to put new housing. And one of the things is to make sure that all new housing developments are going to be located in areas where you do have access to adequate infrastructure, water, electric, and obviously access to transportational needs. The next is to meet the housing demand of the county. You need a variety of housing. This is a type of housing that is necessary. You've seen before you, and we'll get to it in a second, kind of just a preliminary site plan. That's just for the purposes of tonight to kind of show its vision, but it's to have 1 acre, right around 1 acre single family lots for the most part. The hope would be to not have it be an overly dense subdivision. Obviously, the applicant doesn't intend to seek variances on lot size or any of the requirements of the subdivision regulation. The idea is to have a nice new neighborhood of single family homes in an area where there's certainly demand for that. If you look this is just the map from the GIS showing that Bluegrass Energy currently provides electrical utility service to this area, and Madison County provides water service. I think I stated before, there is not currently sewer on site. It is within the proposed sewer area, sewer district. Obviously, there's not a timeline on that, but if sewer does not become available, the applicant will certainly make sure that all of the lots meet the minimum requirements for septic and that no development takes place before the appropriate approvals are met. Just some kind of additional items from the comp plan to kind of foster the idea that we do believe this request is in agreement with the comprehensive plan. I think it is compatible with the adjoining uses. There's agricultural land across the road, and there's single family on both sides. And it's also, the comp plan is very clear that we want to have growth where there is already development, and this does meet that criteria. This is the site plan. I apologize, it's small, but just based on what it looks like, it's hard to make it much larger than that. I know you have some larger copies before you, but as you can see, kind of from the plan, it's to really just have larger, about 1 acre size lots. There's some room for obviously changes, and this is just a very preliminary design based on topography and trying to make sure that you all have a general idea of what is being planned, but for zoning purposes, we want to make sure that, you know, its intent is to be single-family residential. The large lot on the left is primarily a function of the topography of that, and, you know, that could be adjusted. Some of the lots that are not an acre, could be extended out there to make that meet that minimum requirement if sewer does not become available to the site. I'm happy to entertain any questions of the commission. Like I said, the applicant is here, his engineer is here as well. Otherwise, I just reserve some time for rebuttal if necessary.
Any commission members have any comment or concern for recognizing in the audience?
Let me ask a word real fast, just for the record, testimony wise, there's a packet thing, and of course, it's been described by Mr. Long, that the property is 80% in the urban corridor, is that correct?
I don't know about the percentage exactly, but from the drawing, it looks like the majority of the property with a small sliver at the top that's outside that urban corridor. It's accurate, yes. And I'm happy to show the plan commission, the actual Madison County zoning map. I've got it pulled up there. It's got it from the same place that I could show. Just saying that.
Just full disclaimer, I mean, I can't say with absolute certainty where that line is. I don't think really anyone can. I'm just estimating.
Okay, and just for the benefit of the planning commission, and Rob knows this, he was here way back in the day. So when the planning commission first met and started establishing zoning in the county, they didn't zone on a detailed parcel by parcel basis. It was more of a broad stroke, right? This area is commercial, this area is residential. And when you're talking about that urban corridor, we wanted it to follow I-75 and now with the new plan, Kentucky 52. But again, they didn't go over there and draw that line to match parcel lines. They drew it on a larger map with a broad stroke. So that's why you see that line not following specifically that property line at the top. It was drawn because to do it by parcel, there's thousands of parcels in the county. It would have been a very time-consuming process. So we use opportunities like this to kind of clean the map up a little bit too, and that's kind of why I advised him to take it from the two zones that it is now to one zone. So that'll move that line. It will follow the parcel line at that time, kind of cleans the map up a little bit.
From the administrative office's perspective, is it best practice to, if you were going back and drawing the lines and had the technical ability to do it, you would zone, if you had a large tract like this and it was mostly in the urban corridor, you would draw the line to match the parcels.
Because of the confusion, you're right, yeah. You usually don't want the same parcel, the same piece of property to have multiple zones on it.
The UC1 to the east, is that Rainbrook or Fraybrook? Fraybrook. And what is the UC7?
I'm not sure why that is showing up on the zoning map. That's from our map. It's showing as agriculture, but it's clearly it's a subdivision.
What is that?
It's Fraybrook subdivision off of State Street.
On both sides?
No, State Street Estates is on the other side. It's on the east side of this property.
So State Street Estates is the UC1 and
Yes.
the UC7. I'm sorry, UC7 that is also residential is Fraybrook.
That's right.
With the development of State Street Estates and Fraybrook, they had water on down to the Fraybrook for fire flow.
Yeah, there was an and that is one thing that I think we need to correct. Fraybrook was not done post-planning commission. State Street Estates was done prior to planning commission. But Fraybrook was done after countywide planning zone, so that would not have been approved without the fire flow. In any development plan that this applicant submits, that fire flow will be confirmed before anything is permitted or approved.
Okay, any other questions for that? If not, this time I'd like to recognize anyone in the audience that'd like to address this land use change request. I'd like to come up, I'll need to swear you in. Yes, sir. Please, state your name, address, for the record.
My name is Mark Jackson, 130 Whitlock Road.
Okay, please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Absolutely.
Okay.
My concern with this is pretty simple. It's just watershed. I'm downstream from the property. What are we doing about watershed? Because we got, and I know this has nothing to do with this particular development, but all development just over the hill here, the parks going in, the subdivision right here across from the sewage, and now we got this one coming in. It's well known, residents that live along the banks of Texas Creek downstream get flooded. With nothing being done to the creek, and I'm not against development at all, but with nothing being done to the creek at this point, what's to ensure us downstream that we're not gonna be underwater in our homes?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so you're right that, there was a lot of development that occurred along State Street prior, as we just mentioned, to the planning commission having any, we didn't exist prior to the year 2000, 1988, 99. Now with the addition of these regulations, any water that comes off that property has to be controlled. So any pre-development runoff, has to, the numbers have to match with post-development, and that means retention ponds, swales, any way to control that water so it doesn't leave that property any faster post-development than it did pre-development.
Okay, so you're
So
going,
engineers, when they submit site development plans, and you're right, this is not the stage for that, but I'm
no,
happy to answer this
well,
question.
I'm curious.
If this gets approved, the next step will be, the applicant will bring a site development plan back to the planning commission. There'll be engineering calculations that show that pre-development runoff, post-development runoff, how it's being controlled, detention, retention, how all that is factored in. Because there's no sewer available, there'll be acre lots, septic systems approved by the health department. The city has similar regulations now. You talk about the park, some other developments that's occurring there on Tate Street, those are all in the city limits. So we don't encourage you over them, but we hope that they're doing their,
Good justice.
but I can assure you, the board looks at, our regulations require all that to be controlled.
Yeah, that's really the only concern I had. Like I said, I'm not against development. I just wanna make sure I don't go underwater downstream. Thank you. I appreciate that, Bert. All right, thank you, guys.
Does anyone else in the audience, we have a written
I have a question primarily for the developer rather than the committee.
please state your,
Name's
name
Tommy
and
Hawkins.
address, please. Pardon?
Tommy Hawkins,
What's your address?
100 Design Drive.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do. Lots, you said approximately 35, a little over 1 acre. Who would do the building? You gonna, anybody that wants to buy a lot, or you guys gonna control the building?
No idea at this point.
At this point, okay. No minimum square foot and all that kind of stuff at this point?
Got into that.
We have what are called compatibility, stipulations and regulations that require the developer to build houses that are compatible with city, or in other words, we wouldn't wanna put, nothing, not that one's better than another, but a 1,200-foot slab vinyl sided house next to a 2,200 square foot brick house on the basement, right? So the planning commission is mindful of that. They require the developer to submit deed restrictions as part of their site development plan so they can review that kind of thing.
The reason I posed my question, I live in Tate's Creek Estates, and this is gonna back up my backyard,
Yeah.
which is fine, but that happened to Tate's Creek Estates years ago. We didn't have that. I remember the first time we had planning and zoning, you can't do that to my farm and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, you got a nice house and then you got a not so nice house. So that was, like I said, was more directed towards you rather than opposition particularly to the plan. So that's all I have.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Sir. State your name and address, please.
David DeBoer, 112 Lime Drive, State Street, States.
Raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do,
Go ahead,
yes.
sir.
Yeah, thank you guys for this opportunity. Back on the lots, I think there's roughly 30 lots. Are there any easements that are gonna be used for utilities, water, natural gas, electric, that may actually affect Tate's Creek Estates that are coming through that area? Just wanted to kind of ask that question for.
So I can take that too.
Sure.
That's probably not been determined at this point, because this hearing is just for the purposes of trying to establish if this property is appropriate for this kind of use. Again, at the next phase, at the site development phase, they'll submit a plan that shows any easements. There are requirements for utility and drainage easements around each lot, front, back, and both sides. And then whatever the utility company, whether it's water, electric, whoever it is, they have certain requirements before they'll provide services to this development or to this property. They have requirements that they require. Well, so if you wanna get electric, you gotta follow their rules, right? But there are stipulations and requirements for easements for utilities and that kind of thing.
Are there any triggering events that occur? So if there is an easement that does need to be opened up, say through Tate's Creek, would there be another hearing for that kind of an event?
There would be a hearing for the site development plan, which would include a detailed plat of the property, the engineer's done, the water runoff calculations that were described. And that's open to the public. We had one on this agenda that got canceled because they weren't ready, they didn't have their ducks in a row with them. So that is open to the public, those plats will be public record. Sure. As there's something that's being voted on basically by this board at a site development plan.
And then I guess on the other side is just the general road traffic. We're seeing a lot more traffic that's coming through the Tate's Creek area, a lot of congestion coming off of the interstate. And just a general note that we're seeing a lot more traffic, a lot more congestion through this area. Certainly we welcome, growth, that's a great thing. But I just want to make note that I want to make sure the roads are sufficient for the adequate volume that's coming through. So just want to make note of that in the zoning side. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else in the audience has maybe a different issue? Commissioners,
You do your job just to back up and respond to some of those questions or
yes.
issues if you want to.
I think staff has probably adequately handled most of those questions. I would just state that the site plan is very preliminary in nature, that a lot of those things are really unknown, won't be known until, if this commission chooses to approve it and the fiscal court also does. So this is just a very preliminary plan to meet the requirements of what a zoning application requires. I did submit both to legal counsel and to staff proposed findings of fact. I would ask that if the commission chooses to approve this application, that you do adopt those proposed findings to be submitted to the fiscal court. They pretty much echo what I have said here tonight and some of the issues addressed by staff. The reason I ask you to adopt those is so that the fiscal court can get your record of this hearing and kind of what the basis for your decision was. I would also just ask, Mr. Chair, that the PowerPoint presentation that I made tonight be included as part of your record here, as well as the letter I sent submitting the application. And if there are no further questions, that's all I have, and I really appreciate all of your time.
And it wasn't in your package, but I did put one in front. Did everybody get a copy of the proposed? Should have it in front of you there.
Or if you click on the zone, make sure you match up.
Does it say zoning right there?
It does.
Is it checked?
It is.
Well, I don't know what's not coming. So Tate's Creek Estates, regular, I don't know why it's not yellow, and then this is the subject property. This yellow line is, and this is the same map again. This yellow line is you can see it comes right through here. This is the only part of the property that's not, there before this is now.
That yellow line will shift.
The line will shift up right on this property line. Okay.
Is there any other questions or comments?
I make a motion that we approve the zone change in pursuant to KRS Chapter 100 and the testimonies given regarding the proposal land use change request. I make the motion to be approved, the land use from agricultural to single family. So I don't wanna have to read this whole thing,
You
but
know,
everything on here.
just as presented.
Yeah, as presented by this is exactly, I agree with every aspect on that it does, meets the neighborhood and it goes within the comprehensive plan.
Good, but just you.
That
So
way,
you have to understand, you would adopt the, those findings of fact as part of your motion.
yes, I do.
And those are in the meeting room.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll take it.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, we'll have a vote.
Bill Klaus,
Yes.
Brian Adams,
Yes.
Bill Buchanan,
Yes.
Doug Fritz,
Yes.
Mary Harper,
Yes.
Shannon Bennington,
Yes.
Robert Farmer.
Yes.
Just for those that attend tonight, just a little bit about the procedure from here. This is a recommendation. It'll go to the fiscal court, in the form of an ordinance, based on the public hearing that we had tonight. The fiscal court will have 2 readings of the ordinance, just like they do for any other ordinance. The second of those readings will be an opportunity for anybody that wants to speak to come. Once that's, adopted, if it is adopted by the fiscal court, then it will change the zoning map. At that time, the applicant, the zoning map will be changed, the applicant can, submit a site development plan as he sees fit.
Is that the last thing you all covered tonight?
So before you got here, we had to move the agenda today, site development plan off, they weren't quite, ready. So we're ready to move on to the new business, which I don't have any, so I'm ready to move on to adjourning.
Did you get the approval of the minutes?
We did.
Okay, no further business, then, a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Have a vote.
Bill Glass.
Yes.
Brian Adams.
Yes.
Bill Buchanan.
Yes.
Shannon Pennington.
Yes.
Doug Fritz.
Yes.
Mary Harper.
Yes.
And Robert Farmer.
Yes.
He's gotta go.